I am giving away 12 booster boxes of Mega Evolution, which is the next main series Pokemon card set. It comes out September 26th. I'm going to give subscribers 12 booster boxes. And if you want to be one of those lucky winners, all you got to do is just scroll down, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And then you're going to want to come back on Friday, September 12th to learn how you can be one of the lucky winners. So scroll down, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on because why not? And then come back on Friday, September 12th to learn how you can be one of those winners of a new booster box for free of Mega Evolution. Good luck.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? But this set right here, Surging Sparks, is almost 1 year old. It's like 11 months old, basically. So we have a set that comes out this year in September with Mega Evolution. Last year in November is when Surging Sparks came out. And that's really when kind of all the madness started. Not necessarily because of Surging Sparks. Surging Sparks, a very cool set. Great set, obviously, has the Special Illustration Rare Pikachu, but it's got some other slapping cards in it, you know, like the Special Illustration Rare Latios. It's got the Latios Illustration Rare. That's some really cool cards in this set. But around the same time, we had the release of Pokemon Pocket, which made a lot of noise. Really cool cards in Pokemon Pocket as well. And then like the storm started happening, and all of a sudden we got to a point where demand just vastly outweighed supply. You had all these new people coming into the hobby, and Surging Sparks, almost a year old now, has been restocked or reprinted a couple of times. Never in a quantity where supply was enough. And booster boxes ended up, when Surging Sparks first came out, booster boxes were not even selling for close to MSRP. I remember doing pre-orders on Surging Sparks for $110 per booster box. So if you were around before Surging Sparks, you probably pre-ordered booster boxes of Surging Sparks at, you know, $110, which was pretty much the norm, maybe even a little bit cheaper for sets like Stellar Crown, even Twilight Masquerade. And then after the first print run was released, there was a second print run which came out a few weeks after the first print run did. All of a sudden, Surging Sparks just kind of blew up, jumped above MSRP pretty much opening weekend, not too long after the fact, then climbed above $200, headed north of like $250, $260, $270. Then another giant reprint happened, brought prices down to like $220, and now they've started climbing up again. We just got a huge restock of Surging Spark Elite Trainer boxes, not at LGS's, and we've talked about this a lot recently. So a lot more Surging Sparks Elite Trainer boxes recently hit the market. You found them probably at Sam's Club, I think is where they were. They were bundled with booster bundles. But if you look at, we'll look at the graph in a second here, but Surging Sparks Elite Trainer boxes just whoosh, just shot way down. Still, again, well above MSRP, but really shot down. And the thing that I wanted to talk about was something that we recently talked about involving Journey Together. And that's what is inside this booster box. And that's the singles. The single market for Pokemon cards has been super volatile over the past several months, right? We've had this giant surge in prices when it came to Special Illustration Rares, then a crash not too long after that, a correction. You've had buyouts, you've had manipulation with promos, and a lot of weird stuff happening. And kind of our mantra over the past month has been, where everybody else is going, you should go somewhere else. Well, right now is definitely a time to look at Surging Spark singles because they have really fallen, and they've fallen to a point where I don't know if they will go a whole lot lower, and they could still go down lower, but we've talked about this before, how Pokemon cards usually have a floor, but not necessarily a ceiling. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of sealed product, a lot of singles, for example, that will never be cheaper than their cheapest point, but they can always get more expensive than their most expensive point. A base booster box, for example, at one point in time sold for, you know, $70, $80 is where you could find base booster boxes. You're not going to find those again. But we are getting to during the pandemic, base booster boxes jumped up to $30,000. And we could very well live in a world where base booster boxes jump above $30,000. The base set Charizard at one point in time, you could buy a near mint copy for $15, $20. I don't think we're ever going to get back to that point, but we can live in a world where, you know, $400, $500, $600, $700 is more than plausible depending on condition. In Surging Sparks, a lot of singles have fallen apart. A lot of singles have fallen apart to a point where now they have reached kind of leveled off territory, where over the past few weeks now, a month or so, they've gotten to a point where they're pretty much level. They're not going down that much more. And that's really when you want to start looking and maybe picking up the cards that you're missing to add to. Maybe you're a master set collector, or maybe you're somebody who just wants certain cards in the set, but you've been waiting. A lot of focus right now on Mega Evolution. Still people focusing on Destined Rivals, people focusing on Black Bolt and White Flare. And Surging Sparks is kind of left forgotten when it comes to singles. So we're going to go look at the market so you can make the best decision when it comes to spending your collection dollars.
So here is the booster box of Surging Sparks, and you can kind of see in the slideshow itself, or in the graph itself, when the restocks kind of happen, because that's when you get this giant increase in the amount of sales that you have. This is 6 months of data right here. So you can see in March of 2025, it was sitting at a high point, $261.55. That's about $100 above MSRP. Remember, with Scarlet and Violet, the MSRP went up to, you know, $164 or $162, whatever it went up to, from the old $144 that it was previously in the Sword and Shield era and before that. So $261.55. That's when you had a restock kind of hit, and that's why prices kind of fell. And they dropped all the way down to about $216, $217 before going up a little bit and then coming back down at the end of June. Fell down to $215.21. Still pretty expensive, right, for a set that's only about 7 months old at the time, 8 months old at the time. And then it started climbing, and it climbed fairly quickly. You can see in July it jumped back up to about $245, but now it's leveled out over the past month and a half, 2 months. And the reason behind that is because there's been so much other stuff that has come out. A lot of people focusing on Destined Rivals, a lot of people focusing on Black Bolt and White Flare. And while there still has been small amounts of Surging Sparks that have kind of trickled out there, you haven't seen a giant restock or reprint or anything like that. It's just kind of leveled off a little bit. I think we've kind of hit a price point right now where Surging Sparks is kind of, it's chilling at that price point right now. Now, it's still well within that reprint window, which is important. Now, we've got waived releases of Mega Evolution, which they haven't done since the Fusion Strike era. Fusion Strike was, I think, the last set that got multiple waves of product. So we haven't had anything like that. And during that time, we also got giant reprints of a lot of different sets. Evolving Skies, Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, Chilling Rain, Celebrations had multiple waves. Now, we don't have anything announced right now, so we have no idea if there's going to be more booster boxes coming. And it seems like right now, Pokemon is really favoring big box retailers and favoring their vending machines. They're putting out more booster bundles probably than ever before. More Elite Trainer boxes, more booster bundles, more things that they can put in those vending machines, and kind of sticking away from booster boxes, which are being used and bought up mostly by sealed collectors, investors, things like that. They're putting out product that's going to get opened up and maybe hit a different market. But you're seeing kind of a point right now where things are level, flat. Now, it is down about 7% over the past 6 months, but it's kind of flat over the past month and a half, 2 months, sitting at $243.61. The Elite Trainer box, you can see this giant increase in sales volume over the past couple weeks. That's not necessarily because it's gotten bought up. It's just because the price point has been established at a significantly smaller price. During June, it had jumped all the way up to $113.64, which was an all-time high for this Elite Trainer box. And then all of a sudden, Sam's Club offered those bundle deals, the bundled ETB and booster bundle, much like what we've seen lately with the Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer box and booster bundle that was popping up at Costco. The Surging Sparks one, I believe, popped up at Sam's Club, and a lot of people went and bought them up and put them on the secondary market because you're buying them at a discounted rate and you're selling them on the secondary market for $20, $30, $40 more than what you paid for them. And that's why you have such a giant increase in sales volume. And because of that, the price has fallen significantly to a point where it's really not that far off of MSRP if you factor in shipping. $50 is the MSRP. It's going to cost about $12 or so to ship the product. So about $62, $63 is going to be your actual expense on something like this. At least like $12, $13, somewhere around there. If you're selling them at $75.55, that's where it currently is at right now. But the sales volume has skyrocketed. You're looking at over 200 that have sold over the past week, as opposed to the norm, which is between 40 and 50. So definitely a huge impact that has been handed to Surging Sparks because of this restock that we recently saw at Sam's Club. This restock
wasn't something that was spread throughout the Pokemon community. It didn't hit LGSs, it didn't hit distros. Surging Sparks booster packs, for the most part, have been relatively flat, and the reason behind that is because it's in, just about every collection box, and you go through this with new set releases. It's going to take about a year and a half or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that. We saw this with Evolving Skies as well. Evolving Skies kind of hit a point where it hit $7, $8, $9, then stayed at that price point for a very long time because it was still findable in collection boxes. Once it gets to a point where a set is kind of known as out of print, and we're not even at quite a year yet for Surging Sparks, so it's more than possible. We've got a lot of collection boxes coming out over the next few months, especially as we head into the holiday season. It's more than possible that there's going to be more Surging Sparks booster packs that hit that secondary market. That's going to help maintain, this being leveled. It's only about 2% above where it was in March. It did jump up to about $7.40 at one point in time, and then more collection boxes come out and Surging Sparks comes down. Now more booster bundles came out, Surging Sparks came down. So now it's sitting at $6.90 currently, still about 10% up from its low point, which it hit at the end of June. That was when it was at $6.41. But Surging Sparks seal product kind of leveled for the most part. Singles not really doing the same thing. Now you're looking at about a month and a half of consistency for a lot of singles, but for the most part, if you look back over the past 6 months, you're looking at some significant drops. So like this Pikachu EX Special Illustration Rare, for example, down over almost 44% over the past 6 months. In March of 2025, it was sitting at $456.14. Now remember, these are just raw copies. We're not talking graded copies by any means. And then even though quantity of sales stayed relatively consistent, you did have a little bit of time in May where you saw more sell than what we normally had. And then again in June, where about 25 have sold. For the most part, 10 to 15 on a weekly basis. It's pretty much staying the same as far as quantity of sales go. So supply is keeping up with demand very well for this card. In July, it hit $253.19. It's pretty much been level since then. So over the last 2 months, it's been very, very flat, sitting at $256.25. Could it go lower than that? Yeah, absolutely. It could continue to fall, but it also could go in the opposite direction. We have seen firsthand that Charizard EX Special Illustration Rare from Obsidian Flames, for example, which is an easier pull than this one, even though it's it's very different pull rates, right? That card has jumped up over double the price over the past month, so things can change, like that when it comes to some of these cards. They can get manipulated, they can get bought up quick, and all of a sudden a new market price is established. So if you're sleeping on this card, be careful. I'm not saying you should go out and buy it by any means, but if this is something that you really, really want, you may want to start paying attention to it, work your way up to it. Here's the Latios EX, already starting to climb a little bit. In March of 2025, it was sitting at $240.44. In June, it hit that 6-month low of $152.66 and stayed pretty much at that point until the middle of July. Then it started creeping up a little bit. So it's at $166.24. It's up about 10% from where it was a couple months ago, but still down about 31% over the past 6 months. So sitting at $166.24, kind of level right now. Again, very consistent in the amount of sales that it has on a weekly basis. The Melodic EX Special Illustration Rare, again, same thing, a little bit more sales in May. I think that was a day when TCG Player did do like a cashback deal over the weekend, which is why you have a little bit of an increase in sales volume. March of 2025, this was sitting at $144.37. It's been trending downward ever since then. So this could go down a little bit more because it hasn't leveled out as much as what we've seen from the previous two cards. It's been a little flat for the last month or so, but not as long as what we saw from the other two. And it's sitting at basically at its 6-month low right now. So it's sitting at $88.47, just barely above $88.18 was its low point, which it hit very, very recently. So continuing to trend down, about 39% down over the past 6 months. Here's the Gold Pikachu EX. Gold cards are doing surprisingly well right now. This card is not one of them, but it's also one of those cards that also started out a lot more expensive, right? In March of 2025, it was at $110.86. It dropped steep and it dropped fast. You can see in May, it had already dropped below $70, and now it's been a little bit slower of a decline, of a depreciation over the past few months. You can see in August of 2025, it hit $50.98. It's pretty much still at that point right now, $51.82, but down about 53% over the past 6 months. So the Gold Pikachu, the Hyper Rare Pikachu, not doing very well. Here's the Hydreigon EX Special Illustration Rare. Again, same consistency in sales. You're looking between 10 and 20 sales on a weekly basis, with the exception of maybe 1 week in time, maybe 2 weeks in time where it went with abnormal sales. And I do think that was partly because of a sale cashback offering that TCG Player had. March of 2025, this was sitting at $86.65. Dropped really hard, really fast. You can see in May, it was all the way down to about $50. Then a little bit slower of a decline there. Now it's currently sitting at $42.97. Another card that that's down over 50%. So currently down 50.41%. The Latios Appeal Special Illustration Rare, another card that took a really big hit from March until April. In March, it was sitting at $62.60. By the time May hit, it was all the way down to about $40. Now it's leveled off a little bit, still going down, but definitely leveled off, especially over the last 2 months or so. So since middle of July, when it hit that 1 year or 6 month low of $35.71, it's currently sitting at $36.01. So very flat over the past month and a half. Don't know if it's going to go down a whole lot more. The Alolan Executor took a really big hit in April. You can see when it was at $59.22 and got hit super hard, and a very steep drop all the way up until the end of June. That's when it basically hit $33 or so, and it's been at that point over the past couple months now, sitting at $32.57, down about 43%. So definitely got hit really hard. The Latios Illustration Rare, another card that got hit pretty hard, almost down 40% over the past 6 months, going in a little bit of spurts. So it took a steep drop from March until April, fell to about $30 and leveled off a little bit, and then took another steep drop. So you can see in June, that's when it hit its 6 month low of $23.41. It's pretty much been level ever since June now. So over the past 3 months, it's been hovering right around that $25 mark, currently sitting at $25.70. This is the most expensive illustration rare in Surging Sparks. You have a lot of other sets with illustration rares more expensive. Surging Sparks, the most expensive one, only about $25. So the Cerulege, which started out relatively expensive as well, look at how steep this drop was. Again, similar consistency as far as sales go. You're looking between 50 and 60 on a weekly basis. In March of 2025, this was a $35 card, and it got hit hard. By the time June hit, it was already down below $20 and then dropped even further. So you can see in June of 2025, it was sitting at $16.36, started going up a little bit, and now it's retraced back, sitting at $16.40. So again, another card that's been relatively flat now over the past 3 months. Definitely a card that maybe you want to look at now rather than wait. It could go down another dollar or two, but it also could go up $5, $10. Here's Night Stretcher right here. I want to throw this one in here because this one is one that I do think you want to hold off of. Competitive play is obviously a big thing. People do like to bling out their decks, and Night Stretcher is just a huge card in competitive play. If you look at historically, gold cards that are doing really well and performing really well because of competitive play often retrace once a card rotates. Now, this card is not going to rotate for a very long time, but if you're somebody who's patient like me and you're willing to wait it out in a year and a half, 2 years, once rotation hits and Night Stretcher is out of format, this card is going to drop like a rock. You're talking single digits, could be $4, $5, $6, somewhere around there. We've seen that happen with other competitive cards in the past. In March of 2025, it was sitting at $22.73, jumped all the way up to $30.86, again because of the playability of the card. Crashed in June. Now it's sitting at $24.14, relatively flat over the past 6 months, but it's going to be a card that's going to be very popular in the competitive format for a very long time because it's just such a big deal. It really helps with consistency. It helps you recycle your resources a lot, and that's really important when it comes to competitive Pokemon. So if you are somebody who's mastering sets and Night Stretcher is one of those cards that you need, be patient. Play the long game with it. Here's another illustration right here, Skarmory, March of 2025. This was sitting at $16.55. Another card that took really hard hits in March and April. By the time June rolled around, it was already below $8, hit that 6 month low of $7.49. It has been creeping up a little bit more than some of these other cards. So it's up about 10%, sitting at $8.53. But you're looking at a card that's dropped 48.5% over the past 6 months. Maybe something that you want to keep your eye on. The Pikachu EX Full Art Terra card in March of 2025, this is sitting at $34.22. It's been steadily dropping. You can see again, March, April took really big hits and then steadily dropping now ever since April. In July, it hit that 6 month low of $15.71. It's creeped up a little bit, sitting at $17.35, but you're still looking at a card that's down over 49% or almost 49%, despite the fact people really do enjoy opening Surging Sparks. It's just there's a lot of it on the secondary market, which is causing a lot of these to fall. And I'm not saying you should go out and buy these by any means. I'm saying that there's a lot of attention on other areas right now. So if you are somebody who does like collecting master sets, or maybe there's certain cards in Surging Sparks that you've been holding off on, now might be the time to go back and look at some of those because they are starting to level out right now. And I don't want you to buy them when it's too late. And I know that goes against everything, like that goes against FOMO and anything like that. You need to do what's best for your collection budget. But if you're somebody who's like, well, I'm going to buy this Pikachu X at some point, it's probably better to buy it at that $15 mark than it is to wait and hope that it goes down to $13 in case it does jump up to $20. And we're splitting hairs here, but every dollar matters when it comes to how many cards you end up buying. So I'm going to stop rambling. I hope you enjoy the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a really long way for the algorithm. Share the channel. Do all the things. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. We'll be back tomorrow with another video. Till next time, peace.